Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. And I am here with a living legend, Sonny Ozuna. Sonny, welcome to Robert Rivas Radio.
Thank you, Robert. It's a pleasure.
Wow. I mean, Sonny, I am sitting here with you, man, and I am in awe. I got to tell you, dude, I am in awe. You're a living legend. I grew up with your music, and how unreal that I was a little kid, and my brother was listening to your music, and I was jamming along with him. Yo sea un niño, ay no más, but I was jamming to Sonny Ozuna.
Gosh. Of course, it still makes me feel young, pero it's just, fíjate, Robert, que gracias a Dios we've been around a long time, siempre llevando nuestra música y nuestra cultura across the United States todavía. So we kind of feel blessed.
You know, you're blessed, the listeners are blessed, the music is blessed that you're still around, the beauty of that. Now, you know, I can't think of anywhere else to start, Sonny, but the beginning.
Okay.
You know, I think that people want to know, how did this all start, Sonny? You being a living legend and still being able to perform the way you do, people want to know, ¿dónde empezó todo? Now, what I'd like to do is this. Let's start with your born name, okay? Okay, now it was Ildefonso Fraga Ozuna. Did I get that right?
That's right. You got it.
Perfect.
Right.
Born September 8th, 1943.
That's right.
San Antonio, Texas.
Southside.
That's what I wanted to hear. Southside!
Southside, yeah.
Okay, that being said, now, Sonny, when did you first get a hold of a microphone? Where did you say, you know what, I want to be a singer? ¿Dónde empezó todo?
Fíjate que there was a little recreation park. It's still there, and it's outside. Se llama Palm Heights Recreation Center on the south side. And we used to go after school, todos los días after school, and go and check out a basketball and a football, and you could play on the grounds y todo. Well, our mom and dads got out of work because it was always the excuse for us to go there and kind of just play, even though we weren't doing much playing at school, so this was perfect for us. But we would all check out different things to play. Well, when I went there every day, there was this guy in the corner that you would come in. He was older than I was, but I think he was maybe 8-9 years my senior. But he would come in, and I was waiting for him when he got there because he would come into the corner inside the rec room while everybody else was playing outside. I was listening to this guy beat on the piano in the corner of the room. Well, his name was Randy Garibay from Cats Don't Sleep. The people, those that remember Randy. And he would go, and at his age, and of course he was still, I don't want to make him sound old because you have to understand, I'm 7, 8, 9 years old when this is going on. And he sat there, and when I saw him take off on the piano from the very first time, the guy, if you close your eyes, you would hear Johnny Mathis on the piano. He was that good.
Wow.
My God, so you can imagine, I was in awe. And from song to song, things were like, my God, this can't all be coming out of this one guy. It's almost impossible. And that wasn't even his instrument because he was a guitar player, pero se agarraba del piano. And then what I was dying for was this one song for him to decide he was going to play it, right? When I couldn't stand anymore, I would ask him, would you play this for me? Because I got a hang of it after a while.
Right.
Well, believe it or not, in the guy's hand, at that age, for me and for him, he was already playing and he was already doing a little bit of noise with his career. You'd think that he would have realized that the song was in his hand and he could run where I was still 8, 9 years old. The song was Talk to Me, and he had it in his hand, but it wasn't meant for him. So I would go there and I would listen to it and listen. The day I want to, one of these days, if this is what I want to do, and I was getting those feelings already, and I said, gosh, that's going to be the first song I'm going to record. That's going to be the first song. Well, it stuck with me all those years. It stuck with me. I went through high school, elementary school. We went through high school. I graduated out of Burbank High School on the south side in 1963, and in my in my senior year, I went to talk to my principal. Yeah, and he wasn't given a half a credit at that. I mean, I don't know, this was hardcore principals. And I went and I said, look, man, first of all, I appreciate that you're seeing me, pero you know what? I am really just occupying the space here for somebody that really needs an education. I said, I spend more time in the office than I do in my classes because I was always beating on the desk and writing songs and trying to come up with melodies while everybody else was trying to study. So by the time, I'll never forget, his name was Terrell Gates. And I'll never forget that year, not giving away half a credit, he gave me 3 credits so I could get out with my class. Because by then, I had recorded Talk to Me, and it was already starting to take off in 1963. In the year of my graduation, that song took off on Top 40.
What a way to graduate, ¿no que no?
What a way to graduate.
I tell you what, Sonny, let's go ahead. Ya que we're talking about the song Talk to Me, let's go ahead and play Talk to Me. Okay?
All right.
Perfect. Robert Rivas Radio, here we go with Sonny Ozuna, Talk to Me. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. And we're back with Sonny Ozuna. And I got to tell you, man, we just finished listening to Talk to Me. What a song. 24 karat gold, Sonny. Now, I mean, what happened with the song? What happened? This song just took off. ¿Qué pasó con él?
Well, by that time, we started a little band out of high school in my senior year. And we decided we were going to call, I call it the and the years for me, because era Little Anthony and the, so-and-so and the. So we figured, okay, well, we're going to get stuck with and the. Where are we going with it? Well, we were on one of our very first times that we got an opportunity to play in Houston, Texas. And on the side of the road, going down the road, was this huge sign que decía Sunglow Feed Company. It was food for animals. And I loved the way Sunglow looked up there on that sign. Because you know what? And my nickname, when I was born, I was real light complected. I thought I was white. And so my nickname from the very beginning was Bunny. Oh, look, he's white like a little bunny rabbit. And so I had to fight Bunny for a long time. But I'm not kidding, Robert. We're talking 13, 14 years old. Bunny. I said, no, this ain't going to work. So when I saw Sunglow, I said, is because I was already, off a little bit on the and the era. So I knew a little bit about it because I liked all the music of the doo-wops and all that. And so what happened is that, you know what, we'll just change the B to an S, and it'll be sunny to match with sun glows. And this will work. So our very first group was Sunny and the Sun Glows. And when we went to play in Houston, I'll never forget, when we went to play in Houston that day, we played, we had a thing going on that on the first Saturday of every month we would play Houston for the grown-ups on Saturday night, El Baile Grande. But we would stay over, young kids worried about school Monday morning, but Saturday we'd spend the night because we had a matinee to do for the kids, 2 to 6 in the afternoon on Sunday, and then we'd try to get back as fast as we could. The job ended up a little early, but we could still get back home to San Antonio to go back to high school, to the school. Right. So it was working out perfect. We were playing the matinee, and this gentleman came to me. His name was Huey Moe. And he's French. He's Cajun. He's Cajun. And he's out of Conroe, Texas, right out of Houston. Well, I was not aware of the guy, but we sat there and he says, look, man, I heard of your song and I want to talk to you about it. I would like to do something with it. I'm a record promoter. I ran with Freddie Fender's Wasted Day and Wasted Nights. I ran with T.K. Hewlin, Some a Fool to Care. I did B.J. Thomas as Teardrops Keep Falling on My Head, and I'm interested in your song, and I would like to run with it, see if I could put it on a national scale, because it's getting a little bit of noise here in the state of Texas in some of the bigger cities. Well, by then, because it was being played on the air, I was getting a little bit more jobs, but we really weren't getting defined. We were just basically, we all started as garage bands. So we were just copying different songs that were being played on the radio on Top 40.
Pretty much a cover band.
Right. That's all it was. We were just a cover band. Sure. So from there, I said, well, okay. We got together. Before I knew it, this guy was up and running. And this thing was really taking off on us. And then I said, okay, well, once I had my conversation with my principal and everything was cool there, I was ready to go. So we put the group together. Now the group thinks that there's a major company that also wants me to go with them, but they wanted me to go as a single artist. Well, I said, look, guys, hey, hold on, but I'm not going anywhere. We're going to be able to now put the Sunny and the Sun Glows and start putting it to work so we can all make jobs and make some money and start playing our music and start doing this and start doing that. But they weren't buying it. They thought I was just going to get up and split. And I said, well, man, that's a shame. Okay. There was a little group, coincidentally, in Houston called the Rocking V's. letter V, because there were 3 brothers in the group, and their last name was Villanueva. So the Rocking V's. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go talk to those guys and see if they're interested in what I want to do. And I won't go probably with the Sunny and the Sunglows, but, well, we'll see how it goes. I went to talk to the guys, and they said, hey, we love the idea. And if you want to run with Sunny and the Sunglows, that's fine with us, man. Okay, well, the thing was already a little bit hot anyway. So I said, okay, well, we ran with Sunny and the Sunglows with the Rocking V's out of Houston, Texas, because the group here that I had at the time didn't see the big picture.
They got nervous. They got nervous.
So we ran with it. About that time, Huey Mo pops this thing, and he gets it so hot that we get this call from Dick Clark's American Bandstand. Now, Dick Clark says, look, man, I got I actually have 4 artists that are coming on this particular week. We know the noise you guys are making. We're interested in having you guys come in and do it. You're going to do a show with Gene Pitney, Bobby Bear, I Want to Go Home, Dale and Grace, I'm Leaving It All Up to You, and you. He says, now what we do 2 shows and 1 taping, so 2 of you guys will do 1 show, and then the kids will change clothes among themselves to look like a different crowd, and then the other 2 will record the other 2 guys, so we knock out 2 shows in 1 day. Well, great. Huey Mo set up some, what nowadays I call them drop-ins, because you come into a record hop that's already playing, and you'll come in and you'll do 3 songs real quick, and you leave and you go do another one, and that was a big thing up north. So I did about 3 of those record hops. So we're still promoting the song, but at the same time, the people that were having these record hops would start playing your record a little bit more because you took the time to go promote it. Well, we did the Dick Clark thing and some of those things. By the time we got back, you can imagine we were just more than on fire by then. So things were looking good.
That is unreal. Now, let me tell you this, Sonny. After the Dick Clark show, what was your next hit?
Well, I actually had written a song right before I recorded Talk to Me, which was the first song I ever wrote. It was called Just a Moment. But I never thought that I'd get around to recording. You know, you kind of look at your own stuff like, well, you know, and it's good for us and it's okay for the job, but I don't know if this thing's gonna ever do anything. And we did well with it.
That's awesome.
It was called Just a Moment.
That's simply awesome. I tell you what, let's go ahead and play La Canción Just a Moment.
All right.
Perfect. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more with Just a Moment. Here we go. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. And I got to tell you, man, Just a Moment. What a song también. Sonny, we could be here forever and ever and ever talking about all this music. Now, before we move forward, I need to go back here real quick, porque I know you've got my curiosity. I'm sure the listeners are curious as well. Sonny, eres de San Antonio,
right?
South Side, right. Burbank High School.
That's it.
Then you're here at the Dick Clark show. Gosh. Give me your feeling. Give me, what were you thinking, man? I mean, what were your emotions? What was going through Sonny Ozuna?
Well, let me tell you what was going on at the time. Gosh, I remember this like it was yesterday. I was running 9 blocks every day to and from school. So I was in very good shape. But what happened is that I would run equally as fast, if not a little faster, on the way back, because I came to sit down in front of the television to watch American Bandstand like every other teenager of the time. I would sit there, so you can imagine when we get the call that they want us to be on the TV program. Gosh, it's hard to explain the feeling because it's just, this can't be true. This can't be true. Look, man, how many times I've been running for years and to come sit in front of this TV. Now the guy wants me to be on his program. This just can't be real. Can't be real. But it was Dick Clark that wanted to do the show. So when we get to Dick Clark, there's another thing. Dick Clark was always standing on a podium that I wasn't aware of. So to me, on TV, he always looked medium-sized, maybe a little taller, at least a lot taller than I was at the time.
Sure.
And because he was standing behind that podium, where he would, I think it said Clearasil or Wrigley's gum or something, Dr. Pepper. Turns out he had part of all 3 businesses Dick Clark did. Anyway, it turns out that when I got there to do the program imagine this. There was, first of all, I thought, as a teenager, because I'm talking about sitting in front of the television, the crowd looked enormous. of all these kids dancing and having a good time, blah, blah, blah. And then the artist came on to die, and I thought, wow, those are big crowds. There were no big crowds. They would mask off with some masking tape, the little corner, and on one side, one camera would work that side, and the other one would work this side, and then just took different sides, and they would move the cameras just a little bit at a time, and it just looked like a big old crowd. But there was there couldn't have been more than 20, 25 kids there.
That's it.
That's it. In the whole recording studio. And then the idea about them changing clothes, I thought that was just the funniest thing to tape the second segment and make it look different. But the surprising part to me was, more than anything, was that when we finally got to where I saw Dick Clark for the first time, Dick Clark was shorter than I was. He was a lot shorter than I was.
Really?
And I just got blown away because on TV, he looked to me to be, real tall, or say average height, right? But no, he was shorter than I was. So that was really, I really felt big there as far as height was concerned.
Did you get to meet the artist that you were supposed to perform along with for that show as well? See?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Everybody was real friendly. Everybody was real friendly. And we just, of course, Dale and Grace at the time, my song it was on the top 10, but Dale and Grace are already in the number 1 spot with I'm Leaving It All Up to You.
Right.
So, yeah, it was exciting. Pero it's just one of those things that it actually, when I look back on it, if I had not gone through those things, and if the Lord didn't put those things in my mind, I guess He wouldn't have put the idea of Tejano music either. Because what happened is that the group was already playing these little licks that we were using to play the songs that we were hearing on the radio to become this garage band, cover band that we were. And so we were all you have to do is keep up with the times, what's being played on the radio. We were going to be okay. Except one day we get the brainstorm of putting Spanish lyrics to the same licks that we were talking about already.
I got you. Now, before I move forward here a little bit, let me ask you something. How did you feel about, everybody calls it the day the music died, when Richie Valens, Big Bopper, Buddy Holly, what were you doing that day? How did you feel when that happened, Sonny? I wasn't that aware of what was really going on because I was still the young teenager. You can imagine that things are running at 150,000 miles an hour for us at the time. Everything was just moving so fast. It kind of did get our attention like it did everybody else's, but it kind of like there were so many shows, there were so many different artists all hitting the fan at the same time because there was just, you never knew from one week to the other who was going to, all of a sudden things change, and he had the number 1 song that he didn't have the week before. There was that many artists, and then we had Elvis Presley on one side and the Beatles coming from the other, and there was just a lot of commotion that it got our attention, but we were on such a heavy roll with what was unfolding in our own particular career and trying to keep up with high school and all that it was just we were overwhelmed with what was going on. You know what, Sonny? I ask you this question porque I'm not going to say there's a lot of coincidence, but there is a couple between you and Richie Valens. What I mean by this is this. Richie Valens was from a small town, mm-hmm. and he burst onto the spotlight, mm-hmm. like from one day to the next. Mm-hmm. I consider you in the same way. You were from, of course, Southside San Antonio, Burbank High School, simple person, just garage band, as you say. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, on the spotlight with an American Bandstand. Mm-hmm. To me, that is, what a change of lifestyle. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. It's an awesome thing, but it makes you just kind of like, say, how did I get here? Mm-hmm. ¿No crees tú?
Sure. But Robert, at the same time, it goes to show you how things move on, how much times change everything. At the time that we're talking about that space and time, it was like that. It was like that, Robert. I mean, one day you're nobody, and tomorrow you're on top of the world. It's just the way it was. Songs came and went like that, and actually artists could become a big artist overnight that quickly. It was just one of those things that happened real fast. Unfortunately, a lot of them came and went real fast, and of course that wasn't good for a lot of careers that couldn't maintain that level because it was so hard. If you were lucky enough that it just fell in your lap, okay, your next if you want to stay there at all, you have to worry about, okay, how am I going to follow this, and how fast can I do it, because there's another guy waiting on the wing to take my place.
That's right. That's right.
And that line was getting awful long at that time, Robert.
Now, let me tell you this, Sonny. I definitely want to start talking about when we shifted. We're going to shift into Tejano music. Okay. We'll call it Chicano music, Tex-Mex.
Okay.
Everybody's got a different definition of it. But before we go there, I definitely want to bring this up. I can remember, I think I was like about 12 years old, maybe 13. I do not remember the record label, but they produced an album called Yesterday and Sunny. Mm-hmm. I remember the album clearly. A blue cover. It had you like a cartoon figure.
Right.
And it had all these old school songs, cover songs that you had done in the 60s. Mm-hmm. Do you remember these songs?
Yes, I do. And what happened, Robert, was that talking about some of those songs along the way, we discovered after just a moment that maybe we could get lucky and try to survive by inputting a little bit more original songs written by us. And so I got on the stick there for a while, and I started writing more. Well, along the way came songs like Put Me in Jail, Smile Not Cry Later, The One That's Hurting Is You. And the list just kept going on and on. For us, those little fires kept us in the business that much longer, because the kids wanted to always find out what we were going to be doing next, in what direction, and what the new song was going to be saying, that the last hit, or was it going to sound like the last one. We were lucky that we were always trying to make it completely different from one to the other, so we would have a better shot.
That's simply awesome. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to go ahead and break away right now, and I'm going to go ahead and play one of my all-time favorite songs from you, Sonny. Y te lo voy a decir, my jefito, he's still alive, you know. He had several bars in la jukebox. Siempre la canción that was in the jukebox, The One Who's Hurting Is You. And my dad would always say, that's right, you're hurting, not me. My dad embraced that song. You're the one that's hurting, not me. So right now, let's go ahead and play The One Who's Hurting Is You. Awesome to be here with Sonny Ozuna on Robert Rivas Radio. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. And we just finished listening to The One Who's Hurting Is You. And like I said, Sonny, I mean, we could be here forever and ever talking about your hit after hit after hit after hit. You know, only certain songs se me pegaron a mí. I'm not saying that I didn't like all of them, but certain songs se te pegan. You embrace some songs more than others. The One Who's Hurting Is You is a family favorite. It's one of my favorites. It just simply takes me back to the day. But I tell you what, let's move forward now. Let's go ahead and get to the 70s. Let's talk about Sonny Ozuna, and we're going to talk about Tejano music.
Well, Robert, about this time, here we are playing, we were a garage band, and we were playing songs that were being played on Top 40. So that we would copy a lot of the sounds. And we were all young teenagers. We never even thought of messing with the Spanish word as far as the vocabulary. We were very limited because we all learned how to speak English in schools since we were young. And it's nice now. I'm very glad that I'm bilingual. Pero the idea is that at the time, I really didn't see me talking too much, singing too much in Spanish. And it didn't really cross my mind at the time. About the time when Talk to Me is already almost at its height, we had a drummer que se llamaba Manuel Guerra, and he came off originally before he started the Sunny and the Sunglows. He was coming as a drummer from the Isidro Lopez Orchestra out of Corpus Christi, so he knew the ropes, and he wanted to try some of the English songs that we were already playing as copy songs with Spanish lyrics to see what would happen. Because, you know, it's I know it's off the wall, but let's try this. God, well, I fought it, man, because I said, no, you know, I got English down, man, barely. I said, I don't want it. I just didn't see me doing it, Robert, but he talked me into it, man, and I'm glad he did, man, because after that, just because of the attention that we had, now, what I didn't mention, Robert, because I know we want to go forward, what I forgot to mention in the other segments is that all this time, every time my name gets mentioned and the song got me there, they expected a black artist to walk on stage. All this time. So you can imagine them being blown away when they saw it was a Hispanic boy, Mexican American out of San Antonio.
This kid out of Burbank High School, man. He's like, hey, what the hell?
Right. So that was very impressive. But from the idea that this thing took off on us, we saw a song that we liked right from the get go. It's one of the compositions de José Alfredo. It's called Cariño Nuevo. And Manuel said, we need to let's do a cover on this one. We're going to do the same thing. We'll cover some songs that people remember and see what happens. Well, we took up a lot of Isidro Lopez's songs because Manuel was familiar with them. Pero, man, we had hit after hit after hit, and the door opened. But Cariño Nuevo was the one that got us in there.
Also, you had, I'm only going to go through what I can remember. You had La Preferida, ¿verdad?
La Preferida.
There we go. You had Reina de mi Amor.
Right.
Jeez, man, that was a monster hit.
Well, Robert, what was a trend for us, and this kind of just came on us, was that if we had a song like Cariño Nuevo we thought was going to be hot enough to put as the lead title for the album at the time, then the album was called Cariño Nuevo. If the song was Reina de mi Amor, and it was hot, we'd call the CD Reina de mi Amor. But a lot of the times, we came up with just silly titles like El Orgullo de Texas and Monito Chocolate is a completely different story. Pero it's weird how these ideas were coming and our direction was being set for us. The Lord is so good, Robert.
I can remember something. I can remember. I mentioned my brother several times here because I'm sorry, but he is in my memories of my memories of you. Mm-hmm. He had an album. Y me acuerdo that when he first bought it, I got home and he hadn't opened it yet. And I walked into his bedroom and I saw it and I go, oh man, that's so cool. And let me tell you why. He had your brand new album of Sonny Ozuna, but it was a cartoon image. Do you remember that? With a microphone.
Yes.
And
yes.
Inside the album, on the outside of the album, it still wasn't opened. It said free poster of Sonny Ozuna. And I said, I got to have that poster, man. So I opened up the album. I took out the poster. My brother came home 30 minutes later. He goes, where's my Sonny poster? I don't know.
It disappeared. Robert, interesting. There was a fan of mine that was in prison up in Leavenworth, and he actually drew that by hand, and he sent it to and gave it to me as a gift. And we didn't do anything to it, Robert. The way he sent it, we put it on our next album, and it's the one that you're talking about. We just put a poster inside.
Really?
Because we thought that people were going to really like that particular photograph, and you already had it on the jacket. But of course, the poster at the time was also a big thing, so we just went ahead and put the poster.
You know how unreal that no lo piensas en ese tiempo. You just don't think about it. You have the album, you have the poster, great, you're excited, but to say, where's it at? What happened to it? I don't know, Sonny. I mean, I could me meto unas cachetadas over and over again. I should have kept that poster, but it is what it is. I tell you what, let's go ahead and play one of your main songs back in when you kicked in with Tejano music, Cariño Nuevo. Okay?
All right.
Perfect. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more here with Sonny Ozuna. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. And we are back with Sonny Ozuna, and I'm going to say it again, Sonny. I am just, absolutely thrilled being with you here, a living legend. We can talk music about Sonny Ozuna. We can be here for days and days and days to where I'm going to have to go get a sleeping bag, and I'm not going nowhere until I get the whole lowdown on you, Sonny. But like I said, I'm just simply thrilled to be here with you. And what I would like to talk about now, Sonny, is just, let's get to the 80s a little bit. Mind you, we're talking to a person here from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and we can go on and on. This man's going to live forever. But now we're going to talk 80s, and we're going to talk about a song that was a monster hit for you called Greater, Greater, Greater. Talk to me about that.
Fíjate, Robert, at the time I went to play, had done quite a few trips with this gentleman que se llamaba Ray Medrano out of Tucson, Arizona. We had done some jobs for him up in Tucson. And he was real excited this one trip. And I asked Ray, what's going on? I said, oh, man, fíjate que we're sold out, man, and we're going to give a car away, and we're going to have a mambo contest, and the place is sold out, so I'm all excited. But please don't let me forget that I want you to hear this song. He was a music fanatic, El Rey. Y dijo, you need to hear this one song before you leave. Man, this is you, man. You gotta cover this song. La canción was from an artist ahorita that gets away from me out of Mexico, but the song was called Grande, Grande, Grande. And I love that song, especially the middle part. The lyrics are very strong. But there's this one part in the middle where it's got a trumpet solo like nothing you've ever heard before. And I had the musician to play it. Oh, gosh. Man,
Who played it, Sonny? Who played it?
His name was William Laurie.
Wow.
Yeah, we used to call him Willie. And he's a policeman now, as a matter of fact. pero fíjate, and so it took off and it did so well for us. Now, by this time, you have to understand, Robert, now we're doing two genres. Now we're doing Tejano and la cultura hispana and all that, and running with Tejano across todos los Estados Unidos. But we didn't want to let go of the English todavía, because, I mean, we still have in our pocket, remember, just a moment, so I'll cry later, talk to me, and all that. So you can keep that alive unless you just totally drop it, which we weren't ready to do. So dijimos, ¿sabes qué? Grande is good enough to rewrite right away and release the same track, change the lyrics, and put it on top 40. Well, the top 40 stations picked it up right away, and Greater took off. But it came originally from Grande, and that one promoter in Tucson, Arizona.
That's simply awesome. Now, Sonny, I'm going to go and bring up you had some health issues. You actually suffered a stroke in 1987. What exactly happened there, man?
As you can tell by the way I talk, Robert, and this interview is going, I've always been, gracias a Dios, I've always been hyper. So, I mean, I can go and I can go and go. And I think it was just trying to do too many things at one time, which is usually the cause. There's quite a few things. You don't sleep right. We used to travel a lot, and so you don't sleep right. You don't eat right. You can't tell that by our weight, pero the thing is, your hours are not regular. We were so busy moving from one place to the other in record time, a lot of times from one city to the other. So it was going to catch up with us sooner or later. If I didn't slow down, I didn't see it coming. One morning you wake up and you're faced with it. To this point, Robert, as we speak here right now, I have just gone through my 5th heart attack. So during the time, you think I would have learned after the first one, but I love what I do. And we've always done what we know what to do, and that's entertain and record and enjoy all this time that we get to spend performing with our fans and traveling. So we still travel. You have to understand that this is a 51-year career for me as we have this interview. This is 51 years for me traveling and still performing. When we first started, I was 19 years old coming out of high school. So here I am, 70 years old, and we still travel and perform about half of, I could say, at least half of what we used to when we were running full speed.
There are some people, singers, bands, etc., entertainers that don't last 50 minutes, right. And you've lasted 50 years. Mm-hmm. That is simply applaudable. Now, I tell you what, getting past greater in the 90s, like now we're going to go into another decade, and here comes Sonny Ozuna again. You're not going to go anywhere. You don't disappear, dude. You're here with another song in the 90s. Now, the CD was called Mr. Magic on Manny Music, ¿verdad?
Right. Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. Magic came from a time that Manuel Guerra called me one day because I did a lot of the first recordings con Manuel here in San Antonio. He had a recording studio called Amen Recording Studio, and he was doing a lot of gospel and Christian music, pero he wanted to do this one project, and so he called me, and when we started working on trying to do a production which he was going to release on his label at the time. And I actually needed something in the market at the time. And I was the only one that could stop because I still had all the guys moving quite a bit and doing, catching up with the practices and preparing the performance that were ahead of us, that kind of thing. I was the only one that could actually go into the studio, and I let the guys rest up a little bit. So Manuel got studio musicians to come in, and they already had the majority of the arrangements. So all I had to do was come in and do voice drops. And he said, "You know what's so amazing is I really don't have an idea of what I want to call the album yet, but you know what comes to mind as we're working? It's still like when we were working before in the studio. We can almost, without having to say anything, we feel what each other is thinking, and we got this communication coming from the board all the way into the inside the studio with us having to, we know exactly where we're at and where we're going and how we're going to treat the next thing that you're doing to make it come out right. And there's this magic going back and forth. Oh my goodness, I just got the title for the album. Let's call it Mr. Magic. And I said, okay, man. So that's how we came up with Mr. Magic.
Well, I'm glad there weren't other things going on, Sonny, because it would have been a different title. I tell you what, we're talking Mr. Magic. Your hit single after Mr. Magic was Que se
vayan al diablo.
Que se vayan al diablo. But I tell you what, yes, that was a monster hit, but I've got to play Greater, 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 man. I've got to play that song. So look, I tell you what, let me go ahead and play Greater, Greater, Greater. Robert Rivas Radio here with Sonny Ozuna. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. And I am back with Sonny Ozuna again, and everybody's going, hey, Robert, this is the longest interview you've ever done. And I said, that's right. And you know why? Because I'm the boss. I can make it as long as I want. If I've got a legend like Sonny Ozuna here, he can stay here forever. Anyways, Sonny, thank you for joining me on Robert Rivas Radio.
Thank you, Robert. It's a pleasure.
I got to tell you, man, you know, when we take a little breaks here, me and Sonny, man, we're talking, and I mean, if half of the stuff that we're talking that's off the record, I tell you what, man, we get thrown off the radio, man. Now, everybody knows, everybody's been hearing on Robert Rivas Radio. I've been plugging this event, Valentine's Super Love Jam. That's going to be happening Saturday night, February 1st here in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome Illusions Theater. That's going to be happening at 7:30. And check this out. Check out the lineup. Tierra, Peaches and Herb, Heat Wave, The Delphonics, The Moments, Barbara Lewis, GQ, Malo, and who? And last but not least, as they say, Sonny Ozuna. Sonny, how did this come about for you?
Well, Robert, for some time now, I think we did one show again in San Antonio some years back. But I do all these. We call them I call them doo-wop shows because there's a lot of the shows on the West Coast are still pretty big, as long as the doo-wop groups never died. So the Delphonics, the Moments, Heatwave, all these groups, they're still very big, and they're very big in my heart because I grew up actually playing all these same songs as I was growing up and working on my career. I was playing those songs because those were the songs that I tell you about that we were copying off the radio to be able to copy and play them at my jobs.
Sure.
When we were growing up.
Sure.
So every performance had some of these songs. Well, you can imagine for me like a little kid in a candy store, because when a job like this comes, and I do maybe 5 or 6 of these a year up and down the West Coast, and I've been telling him, Alan Beck, for a while, Alvin, we got to go back to San Antonio, man, and man, you're missing out, man, because San Antonio gets off on all this kind of stuff. This is the baby boomer era, and they all remember these songs, Alan, man. We need to take a show back to the Alamo Dome. And so on my last job that I did with him, which was in Anaheim, California, a couple of weeks back, he says, so you better sit down. He said, Max, I got some news for you. He says, we're going to San Antonio, to the Alamo Dome, and we're taking the Valentine's Love Jam to San Antonio. Oh, man, I was blown away, Robert. I was blown away. I said, are you serious? He says, yeah. He says, man, it's going to be a fun evening, so you should make your plans. You should make your plans. This is going to be I don't know if I can talk Alan Beck into doing the third one, but I sure am going to try. But this one you do not want to miss. You're going to see, especially the younger generation, when your mom and dad's been talking about their particular time because they are from the baby boomer generation. This is the music that you need to hear for the first time, and it will affect your life from that time on, and like it did your parents, and you'll see what they've been talking about all this time. For the baby boomers, your life is about to flash right before your eyes, so you just don't want to miss this one.
That's right. You do not want to miss it. That's going to be happening February 1st here in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome at the Illusions Theater, 7:30. I have my tickets. Y'all better go ahead and get your tickets. You do not want to miss out on this event. Now, Sonny, you came out in a couple of movies. Talk to me about this.
Well, there was a movie that I had a small part in que se llamaba La Muerte de Pancho Villa con Antonio Aguilar and Flor Silvestre. Freddie Martinez was in the motion picture. And then there's another motion picture que se llama A Broken Promise with El Hijo de Anthony Quinn, Carlos Guzman. There's quite Agustin Ramirez turned out being a drug dealer. Pero, well, I shouldn't be laughing. I actually played the part of a priest on that particular one, and it's a story about a young man who wanted to be a Tejano musician, and he just seemed to run into every wall you can imagine during his whole lifetime, where the Lord was trying to tell him that it wasn't for him, and he runs into every wall you can possibly imagine, until the very end. And the end just blows you away. The Lord wanted him to play the music for him.
Is this available on DVD?
Yes, it is. Chama A Broken Promise.
I need to find this movie. I need to see this movie. Yeah. And now, okay, that's awesome. Now, I'm telling you, we can go on and on. The man sings, he acts. I mean, he doesn't drink. ¿Qué más quieres? What else do you want from Sonny Ozuna? And now, let me tell you what else. The man has won a Grammy. Talk to me about this, Sonny.
Freddie Martinez calls me one day and he says, look, I've got this idea for Freddie Records up in Corpus, and I'm calling just a few of my closest friends, and I want to put this together. I want to call ourselves the Legends, and we want to run with this one CD and just see what happens. Maybe we get lucky, and we all had a good laugh. Tava Agustin Ramirez, Carlos Guzman, Freddie Martinez, and myself. And dijo, but man, dice, you're going to be the cincher, man. Just please don't tell me, would you do this project with us? Like, sounds good, Fred. You and I are good friends, man. I don't know why you're thinking like that. I'd love to do this with you. We did this one project, se llama ¿Qué es la música tejana? And it got us our very first Grammy in the year 2001.
That is simply awesome. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And everybody who was part of that CD.
Thank you, Robert.
This is the part of the interview. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy all this interview, but this is the fun part for me because I get to ask you silly questions now.
Okay.
We get to find out Sonny Ozuna, the lighter side of Sonny Ozuna.
Okay.
Sonny, did you ever perform with Los Dinos, Abraham?
I actually did, pero not when they had Selena with them, because the dad was doing actually pretty decent at the time when they first begun. So there were just another group in my beginning days that formed like the Royal Jesters did in San Antonio and the Del Kings and groups of Randy Garibay and all these guys that we actually started here in San Antonio. This happened to be the same space of time, and the Dinos were one of the starting groups out of Corpus Christi.
Sure. Okay. Now, you've had 5 heart attacks.
Okay.
Now let me ask you. Does Sonny Ozuna still drink a beer once in a while, a glass of wine, or is that out?
Well, Robert, I'm glad you're sitting down. Sonny Ozuna does not drink after 51 years of working in bars. I just never got... I'll never forget this, Robert. I must have been 12 years old when I had my first job. At the end of the street where I lived was a little ice station, we used to call them. And that guy hired me to come in after school and just clean the shelves and take the dust off, because it was those big doors that are open and dust would go everywhere and all that. So I would go in there. One day I made the mistake, without nobody watching, I took a sip of beer. And I guess it must have been bad or something. But Dad took care of that for me.
Really?
At the age of 12. Never bothered me again. I don't have need for beer. I don't smoke, Robert. I don't do drugs. I don't do... gosh, anybody that knows me in the business will tell you, gosh, look, whatever you got to say about Sonny, man, you better watch what you're saying, because you're gonna find it real hard to try to say that he does this or does that, because I just love what I do, Robert. My natural high actually is just what I do. I love to write. I'm writing now in 5 genres. So I'm doing gospel, I'm doing Christmas carols, I'm doing oldies, I'm doing Tejano, and I'm doing country. So if I'm not doing one thing, I'm doing another. I don't have very many pastimes because I'm a workaholic, which means that I fix everything at my house. I fix the trucks, I fix the yards, I paint the house, I do the sheetrock, you name it, and I do it. But that's what I do in my spare time, Robert. Are
you a sports fan?
Yeah. Now, yeah.
Okay, let's talk.
We're okay. We're okay.
Goes first. Go. What about football? Who do you like?
Well, I have to like the Cowboys. I have no choice. Except, gosh, they got us spoiled with Roger Staubach and all these guys. Man, they were back there, America's team and all that. And to be anything less than that, gosh, it's so hard for me. I love football, but I like basketball a lot more, and not because the guys are doing so good, Robert, because these guys go after it. These guys, they're doing well.
Sonny, let me ask you something here. I asked Joe Bravo this question, and I'm going to ask you the same because I think it's important to get feedback from some of our legends, or people like yourself, who and to me this isn't a bold statement. This is just plain out truth. You guys are the foundation of our music. You really, really are, and there's no doubt about it. You're the foundation. Without you guys, there wouldn't have been Hot and Heavy Tejano in the late '80s, '90s, and whatever. It wouldn't have been there, man. You guys were there. Now that being said, where were you? How did you find out when Selena was killed? How did you feel about this?
It was such a sad moment, Robert, because you have to understand that we saw her. I played with her many times, and I actually saw her grow up like I've seen Shelly Laris grow up. She started as a real young little girl, and we just physically saw them grow up. Well, it was sad for us because it was such a big loss for us. She was already at the top of the hill, so she had nowhere to go but even further if there was a place to go any further, because she was at the top of our Tejano music at the time, and she was opening doors that maybe some of the legends had failed to do at the time, because we opened up many doors across the whole United States. She was starting to open at her young age doors that we had failed to open, and they were paying attention to her. So it was going to be nice because she was about to open doors for everyone else that was following her at the time because she was doing so well. So it was kind of sad for us, and it was hard to get a grip on it at such a young age that we lost her.
Sonny, I saw you perform, I'm going to say about 3 years ago, and actually I was with my brother when we went to go see you, and he was very excited. We saw you perform at St. Mary Magdalene's Church Festival about 3 years ago. And one thing that I'll never forget, Sonny, and I just saw you perform again like about 3 months ago. One thing that I admire about you is when you get up on stage and perform, you're dressed in the same image way to where, your classic style, como te vistes, your sport coat, your red sport coat, your hat. I mean, you still have that image of the way people remember you. Your voice is solid. Your voice is still there. I mean, how do you do it, man?
Well, Robert, as far as the way we look, or try to pull off the way we look, I learned from, again, going back to my days of doo-wop, I saw a magazine article from the Temptations that said, on one of the interviews, one of the guys said, the way we look at our performance is this way. 50% of my performance is how I look. Now, if I have a bad night and only perform 20% because I've got a real bad throat, hey, I've got a 70% going on. I said, oh my God, I have to always remember this. And I've always remembered that. So they got to look nice. Now, the performance, of course, we always try to go as hard as we can at every performance for that other 50%. And then I know of taking care of business. I've been accused a lot of times, Robert, of putting pressure on big artists that are doing a lot better than I am right now. But I don't know how to go up against one of my colleagues in my business that from my school, and whether they're hot or whatever, Robert. And I don't know how to go up and say, okay, well, I'm going to take it a little easy today because I want you to look good. I don't see myself doing that. I have to go and I take my best shot, and he's the one that's got to make sure he delivers. Because by the time I go there, Robert, I've already made my preparations at home. With my group, with my practice, or whatever we have. We actually made plans, and we've been thinking about that job for a while now. So when I get there, Robert, I'm there to execute.
It's I'm not going to say it's hard to find, but nowadays there's a lot of performers that perform according to whoever's in front of them. If they got 10 people, pues, se agüitan un poquito. They don't give you as much, or they don't even want to get up on stage. You're one of the performers that you don't care if you got one person or 10,000 people. You're going to get them. You're going to give them a show regardless. You're going to give it to them. They're going to know that Sonny Ozuna was in the house. No que no?
Yeah, that's the way it is, Robert. Fíjate que I learned that real early in the game. And what bothered me is, think about this. If you only have a crowd that night of 30, which is kind of unheard for us, okay? But for 51 years later, I just don't see me playing somewhere and there's going to be 30 people there. But what happens is that those people, I looked at it, worked just as hard for their money, Robert, as the 3,000 that were supposed to be there that night. So I owe them exactly the same performance to the 30 people as the one that I owe to the 3,000. I don't perform for the 3,000 any different. They're going to get the same stroke that the 30 do.
Beautiful. I tell you what, Sonny, thank you so much for joining me on Robert Rivas Radio. When I found out that I was going to be able to interview you, I was excited. And I said, man, I'm really looking forward to this. And it was worth every penny. Oh, how much did I pay? Not really, man.
How much did I pay?
How much did I pay here? What's going on here, man? Who's got my wallet? ¿Qué pasó aquí? No, really, Sonny, I mean, I greatly appreciate you being on Robert Rivas Radio. It's simply, man, just simply awesome. Do you have anything you want to tell to the listeners?
Well, you get this comment about Tejano is dead, and I know I have to say this everywhere. We have to say it everywhere we go. Thank God that we build from day one, Little Joe, Freddie Martinez, Agustin Ramirez, Joe Bravo, Jimmy Edwards. The list goes on and on and on of the artists that still are out there doing performances that are from my school. We're called old school now. And all the artists from old school, they all perform the way I do. They give you their best shot. And we're lucky enough, the Lord's been good to us, that we have built a culture that we call Tejano music, and we stand by it.
Perfect. Thank you, Sonny, for joining me on Robert Rivas Radio. I'm going to go ahead and close it out with one of my all-time favorites, and I got too many all-time favorites, but this one's called Reina de mi Amor. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.